Concerned Citizens Movement. So we have three lovely individuals here with us. I will allow them to introduce themselves and, say good morning to the public.
Good morning. My name is Jana Elizabeth. I'm 30 years old, in case anybody's interested, that I fall into the youth category still. And I'm a teacher at Jujulin Secondary, so I'm actively involved with youth development and just interacting with young people on a daily basis.
Nice.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jermaine Atherton. I am the president of the Concerned Citizens Movement Youth Arm. I am currently, I also fit within the age of the youth because within the age would be from 16 to 35 inclusive. And so, that means I fall right at the end of that spectrum though. But at heart, I feel much, much, much younger. But I recently worked at the Four Seasons as the weddings coordinator and also
nice.
an events planner. So I do know to coordinate stuff and have things in order, and I'm always on time. Try to always have things done on time.
Yes, and you were on time this morning, and we appreciate that. And then,
My name is Catherine Seabrooks Wilkinson. I'm 26 years old, so that means I'm the baby of the group. I'm currently a teacher at the St. Thomas's Primary School. I'm a trained teacher, and I previously worked at Walwyn Law. So I'm the baby, I'm the youngest. I would say I'm the youth, yes, of the youth.
and what's your position in the CCM?
I am the secretary of the CCM Youth Arm Executive.
Okay. All right. So we're talking about different political parties, and the CCM is the governing party in Nevis right now. I'd like to understand from each of you, why did you choose to get involved in the party rather than just be a regular voter and have a preference? But why did you choose to go further and become a part of the party?
Well, for me, I have always loved politics. I used to go to a barber shop where politics is the daily topic, if not daily, on the hour. And so I've been exposed to politics for a long time. And I would say on my 18th birthday, I decided that I would wake up out of my bed and head down to the electoral office.
On your
And
own, no encouragement?
On my
Okay.
own, and registered to vote because that was in like 2004 and we were having a general elections at that time.
Oh,
and
okay.
I wanted to vote. So I got up and I registered to vote that June, and then I voted for the first time in that October.
Okay. But in terms of
And-
getting involved in the party itself.
Getting involved with the party now is that I've watched both sides, and I'm one who believes in democracy, and everyone has their own choice. So I quickly kind of noticed which one I lean towards. I've always been a voter for years, but in terms of getting involved with the party, I think that with me thinking along the lines of one of these days, probably it's just a far-fetched idea at the moment, but probably one of these days running for a constituency, I said then it's time for me now to step into actually being an active member of a party. And that way you start to keep, as our tagline, keep the momentum.
Keep the
and then we
momentum.
keep going
Right,
forward.
right.
So that's basically my reason for now stepping out from being a voter into an active member of the party.
Okay, nice. Catherine, what about you?
Yes, as I'm going to piggyback on what Jordan said, it's important for youth, especially to understand the role of democracy in a society. And as a citizen, it's important to not only be able to vote, but to also be involved in politics. People may see politics as being involved as something that is taboo, but it's important for us all to not only be just a part of it, but also play a critical role in the decision making, whether it be on the level as a voter or having a voice within the party. So I didn't particularly say go up as Jordan would, with the intention of, okay, my mother or father is a CCM support our stance, I'm supporter, so I will be involved in the party. My thing is, I saw that they had an opportunity for youths to be involved, and it's important to not only take the opportunity when it's presented, but also be a part of and make sure that you stand up and stand out to ensure that what you have as a concern, what others are facing is here, and you are not just at the back of it saying this should be done or that should be done. It's important to take up space.
Don't just grumble on
Don't
Facebook.
just grumble. Take up space and do what you have to do
Right.
for the forward movement of the nation.
Nice.
Yes.
Janelle?
Well, anyone who knows me knows that I try just about everything. If I want to know how it works, I'm going to actually get involved and experience it firsthand. I do take information from other people, but I like to get my own personal experience. So I did have like a small period of apathy towards the election process, and I started to feel like, okay, why are we doing this again? And when I got that feeling, I didn't like it as a citizen. I feel like it's my job to be involved in creating a democratic society. So I decided to get involved in different aspects of society. I recently, in the last election that we held in Nevis, I got involved as one of the polling clerk so that I could see how the process worked from the inside. I also got involved in a voter mobilization campaign where we actively encouraged young people to go out and get involved in the process, see it, vote. So I took the opportunity to get engaged in those aspects of politics. And now I've transitioned into another area that I want to experience fully as well. And I do believe that the CCM party has created an atmosphere where it's easy to come in, join, assimilate, and express yourself and actually make a legitimate contribution. So that's why I was drawn towards the party, to actively try it out and put my best foot forward to help and make the country better.
So none of you were actually recruited into the party. You just stepped forward.
Yes, I was definitely not recruited. If I grew up in Jessop's Village, Nevis, which is a hot spot for the opposition.
And I'm from Cotton Ground, which is also a hot spot. I wouldn't say we were not recruited, because one thing with the concerned citizen movement, they don't just see you as a, I wasn't branded just directly as an NRP. They often come and talk to you about the party's vision and the importance of youth involvement. They don't go out and, I would say, headhunt. They would more encourage you to have a voice. Maybe they have a town hall meeting and be like, oh, you should come, participate, hear your voice, and that's things that they do. So it wasn't really a hard decision when you had to put out the post and you go.
The environment just felt more welcoming.
Yeah, they're very welcoming.
It's magnetic.
I would actually,
Magnetic,
It's
wow.
magnetic. It is.
I would actually agree with the ladies. I live in Ramsbury, where it's St. Paul's, and as you know, St. Paul's goes and comes for either party. So that's why I tell you, I've been there looking at both parties all of my life. And it was a simple choice after certain things and certain interactions with persons to actually have a direct thought towards one party. So it was never a recruit. I do have people in my family of both sides. No one really, in our family, we talk politics, but not on a level of
Nobody
like,
carrying
Correct,
feelings.
yeah.
no. And my household itself with my mother is not really deep into politics like that. We vote and she votes, and she tells us it's your choice to vote, because if you want to have a voice, you have to vote. If you don't vote, then you may as well not say anything,
Right.
because you didn't contribute to what it is. And so getting involved and actually was just a choice of mine. Not anyone come in and said, join the CCM party or anything. It was just a choice that I made at an early age.
The big blue tent looked welcoming.
It was my favorite color. So everybody sees me, I tend to wear a lot of blue. So it's not for a political party. It's my favorite color. and it was easy to transition into wearing it.
Almost. Okay, that's like destiny talking right there.
Exactly.
So you guys recently had elections, and you had to campaign and all of that. I saw all these things on Facebook. What was like the reactions that you guys got from the public when you came out and said that I am going up for a position in the CCM Youth Arm? What was the response from the public like?
For me, the response was, yeah, you know you can do it. I have faith in you and stuff, because I mean sometimes your attitude gives you your altitude. And so I think that my sense of worth of myself tends to be so alluring that people tend to say, you should be a leader. And so it was kind of easy to actually wanted to do it in terms of running for the presidency, because all the years I've been a supporter, like someone who encourages people to vote and stuff, but it's now my time to shine. In order for you to excel, you have to put yourself in the position where you think you need to be to get where you want to be.
Okay. Janelle?
The responses I got were actually overwhelmingly positive. As I said, I grew up in a stronghold for the opposition, but it was so great that even though I was running for the other party, for the youth arm, it was a very supportive environment. People would comment and be like, oh, wow, it's great that you're getting involved. I wish you were on our side, but I hope you win. Keep pushing forward, keep getting involved. As nobody's ever surprised when I'm doing something new. It's it's always happening. It's just like, okay, we know that you can do this. You've demonstrated that you can go into any sphere and leave your mark. So just go ahead and we support you.
Okay. Catherine, what about you? What was the reaction like?
I believe anywhere you're planted, you should be able to bloom. That's one of the main things I get my life by. So, as I said before, St. Thomas's is mainly, on the opposition side, but the people in my community are very supportive of youth in positive movements, and once you're doing something good, they normally back you. Especially my mother. My mother, she grew up in an NRP household. My grandmother was one of the first in the NRP council. So it wasn't like, oh, well, your mother is NRP, she's going to support you. No, I had the support of my parents. They're like, just do the best that you can do in your situation. And the community was, kind of apprehensive, I would say, because they kind of look at civil servants, especially in these kind of movements, as, not the best. But I would say that once you're respectful in the atmosphere you're in, and your intentions are pure, and your intentions are for the best of the nation, it's important to push. No matter what side you're on, it's important to push youth to make an impact in whatever they do. So it was really supportive. I would say the New Vision Society as a whole, the more positives than negatives. You might get a negative talk, but you know it's more positive than negative.
Yes, I agree.
Okay. I'm liking the fact that you guys are, you acknowledge that even within your families or your communities, you stepped out and you went against the grain in some instances, and people could still be supportive. And that's one of the things that we really want to promote with Alarm Clock. We could be on different sides of the fence, but we could still support each other. We could still be respectful to each other. We just know at the end of the day, when we go into the booth, it's unlikely that we're going to vote the same way. But when we come back out, we need to be able to talk to each other, celebrate with each other, console each other, and support.
I totally believe that is where we need to head in terms of that's exactly where we need to head in terms of politics, because everyone won't at any point in time always agree or always support the same cause, but at the end of the day, you have to still be friendly. Because as the old people will say, you don't know where you're going to fall down and need help.
That's true.
So I have friends of the opposite side. We talk about politics, we laugh about politics, agree to disagree, and then move on. But of course, in our society, people take politics very, very, very serious.
Yeah.
And so there are persons who would not like you just because of your choice, but that's okay. That's how I look at it. It's okay. And that doesn't mean that tomorrow I know that you don't support me because I'm of a particular party. I still say good morning, good afternoon. Because, your personality may just break them down and make them switch. Because sometimes it's not a force, sometimes it's a small effort.
Well, I'm loving the shift that I think that young people are really leading, coming out of maybe the last 2 or so elections, particularly the last one, where we're seeing more of that inclusiveness. So you will go with your CCM shirt and still hug up your friend in the NRP shirt, and at the end of the day, we understand that we're on 2 different sides, but we actually want the same thing. We all want our countries and communities to improve. You just feel as though maybe your party is the better party to do that. So I will ask each of you this at this point now. What makes CCM the better party for Nevis?
It's pretty easy to say. The reason why I would say, once again, because I grew up in St. Paul's, where it's a switch. The reason why I would suggest and say that the CCM is the better party is because of inclusion. Everyone feels the love at some point in time. Even if you don't get it at the strongest point, you will feel the love. And sometimes it's just an ounce of love you need to take you as far as possible. And that's my favorite thing about the CCM party. You don't feel like someone is forcing you to do anything. Someone is not like someone telling you, vote CCM. No, they say, we would love you to vote for CCM, but if you don't, then that now makes you start to think, if I'm not a part of you and you're still welcoming of me, then I think that there is a place for me there.
There's value in that. I think people see value in that. That sounds like space for independent thinkers to feel more comfortable.
Exactly.
So there's no force.
So like a person like Janelle who tries everything.
She's more inclined.
Exactly.
Yeah, more inclined.
Exactly. And I'm sure Janelle can concur with me.
So Janelle, why is the CCM the better party for Nevis?
Based on how I look at it, I feel that as a party, as a government, you simply have to be organized, and your leadership structure needs to be effective and communicate that confidence and have a plan and know how to execute it. And I see that within the CCM party. I believe that the leadership structure that they have is very strong. The leaders and the parliamentarians that they put forward, I have full confidence in them. And they have demonstrated over and over that they're able to go to work and get the job done. And that is what any island or country needs, somebody and a party that can effectively lead you through good times and bad times. And we know we're in COVID times. So I definitely would vote for strength and effectiveness. And that's
more
what you get.
Strength, more established structure, stronger leadership.
Yes.
Okay, more
And
inclusion.
it is very welcoming, as my peer just said. You just come in and you're welcomed. You're given opportunity to step forward into leadership roles. Nobody questions whether you belong here or not. It's just you're a citizen of the island, you're a resident, come forward. And we have a place for you.
All right. Catherine, why is CCM the better party for Nevis?
Well, let me educate you. First, I have to talk about the background of CCM
Sure.
so that we should be able to conclude why they're the better party. CCM was founded in 1986, so that means there's not only a bit of history there, but you can see over the years they've developed. There's evolution. There wasn't a point of time where they were stagnant in development. You could see that They started as a baby and they grew. I see the growth in CCM as a party. It didn't have one set model or one set standard and stuck with that, and this is the way and this is the way we are, and that's the way that we should always be. They constantly, they stick with the ground rules, as you said, in respect of equality for all citizens and individual dignity of all people. That's what their mantra is. But every year through the years, they try to find ways to modernize the approach. And it's important when you're choosing an organization or you're choosing a political party to look at their stance as the years progress. So you look at their educational roles, how they structure themselves, and how they go about choosing their candidates, and these are, you have to weigh out their pros and cons in order to select the better party. Why CCM is the better one now? As Janelle said, you have to start from the head. So leadership is just not, I am in control and this is my party and this is the way it should go.
Do as I say.
The leadership looks at input from every single angle. It's not just, okay, this is the executive and this is what we're going to do. They talk to other people, they gather ideas, they pull their ideas together, and they select the best way forward. And that's important. When you're in a leadership position, you should be able to take critique or advice from others that is positive and it's directed to the growth of the country, instead of just, okay, I'm a strong person in this constituency, so this is what the party needs or this is what the country needs. They look at the strength in each area, and you saw that from the last election. CCM as a party was not just directed as, let's just get all the votes for the leadership position. They looked at all angles and how to strengthen all angles, and that's what they do in Nevis also. How to strengthen each individual. And once all areas are strengthened, the party as a whole is cohesive and it can achieve the goals that are set out.
All right.
So
you seem like a strategic person.
Yes.
You're into strategy and
Yes.
thinking about the best way to be efficient and effective. And
yes.
in your opinion, the CCM is much more
Stable.
Stable.
Yes.
Yeah, much more stable. All right. So we're hoping that for the people who are listening, especially those in Nevis, that if you're considering, you know, especially those who may turn 18 in this year and next year, if you're not sure who to vote for, hopefully you're getting the kind of information that you need to really make sure that you're making informed decisions, whether it is as a voter or if you want to, as these three individuals have stated, they wanted to get more involved in the party level. So we're giving you the information from the CCM perspective. At some point in the near future, we will hear from the NRP youth, hopefully. And of course, St. Kitts, we are not leaving you out. we will speak to those the three parties over here as well. But I want to, Catherine, you said that CCM started in 1986. 87? Okay. How come we understand that this is actually the first time a youth arm has been established? Why do you think why did it take so long, first of all, and why do you think it was so important for that to happen?
Well, I did my research, you know.
Yes, you seem like the researcher.
Of course. The Concerned Citizens Movement, the Constitution, speaks to the involvement of both women and youth in the political structure. If we look at page, I think 13 to 14, it has the same structure as the executive. As we know, in the past, it was difficult to get both women and youth involved in politics for various reasons. You know, normally when a young person, and I'm not talking from the party level, I'm talking about society and a whole. When women especially go into politics, they are normally, I said, we would say more or less targeted for different reasons. Or when somebody young comes in, it's very intimidating. But I find over the years, as I said, evolution played a great role in this. we find that more youth started to come forward and show an interest in being involved. The party itself would have gone out throughout the years and, targeted and tried to get youth to be involved. But at the end of the day, they can't force the youth to come on board. It has to be a willing thing from both sides. But I would say they became more welcoming. They convinced more, and the youth, we see youth now more than ever. The youth are trying to take up space in society, and it's easy for us now to go to the politicians or to throw out our ideas and say, well, and the politicians, they saw this. They saw that youth now more than ever are wanting to be a part of political parties, and youth are wanting to make decisions and help to guide policies. So as the opportunity presented itself and the party, so that there were willing youth, and this is time now to get the youth involved, it became a very smooth process. It wasn't any forcing. They introduced us to the Constitution, showed us guidelines and laws, the political structure, policies and everything, and it was more or less a mesh now. So they saw that there's the opening, and when there's a glut in the market, you have to take advantage of that glut. They saw the glut, they saw the opportunity, and they took it, and they just took us under their wings. So it was always there in the party structure, women and youth, but they saw the opportunity, they saw the need for it, they saw that more than ever youth want to be involved, and they have us, so they just took us under their wing. And
time to establish a family.
Time to establish a family. The youth have always been involved in the party,
Okay.
but now more than ever, they see the youth interested in the actual
well,
policies.
and like the saying goes, better late than never.
Yes.
So it's there now.
I wouldn't actually say late, because we don't know what it was back then or how the whole dynamic was. But the thing about it, and the thing about the CCM party, we're all about now. We're in the moment, and now is the time for the youth arm.
Okay.
And so this is now the uprising.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. You wanted to add?
I'm just saying, similarly, I wouldn't lament on why it is just coming into play now, but rather celebrate that it is, because when I saw the announcement that a youth arm was being created for the party, I got really excited. It is the time for it, because during the campaign, during the whole election process, you saw young people involved in every aspect of the political process. So for them to formalize it and move forward and give opportunities for young people to step forward and get training in leadership and get involved in the groundwork of the political movement, that I thought was very commendable, and I definitely had to jump on board.
Nice. Well, you see, we have to ask that question because it's a question that we noticed was being asked
Definitely.
a lot on social media. Like, all of the other parties have youth arms, and this is like CCM just coming on board, and how come it didn't take so long? And I saw people saying like, they never really used to listen to young people and things like that. So we really want to clear the air and make sure that people understand, like Catherine said, there was always a space. It just maybe it wasn't formalized. So no, it's formalized.
So how about new leadership? Because the party has transitioned into new leadership, and I've always said, I think we've said it on previous shows, that different leaders push for different things and enable spaces based on probably the times and what's happening. Because you really do see a lot more young people wanting to become involved in politics.
Yeah, loving the
joining
push.
it, yes.
Lately, a lot of young people are stepping forward.
And that's another thing about the CCM party. If you notice the transition took its form into a younger set of politicians, a younger mindset, and more open to certain things that are outside of the box. And so that's where, as I'll ring it all day, and I got the notion and the idea from like a recently held convention where my colleague would have talked about inclusion, and the way she expressed it, I was like, whoa. I always thought it, but now someone actually saying it out loud is like, it's just a big applaud.
I think it's really commendable that the CCM has evolved in such a way. A lot of people complain about the fact that political parties don't have succession plans. I mean, I'm one of them, and and I don't want to say complain really, but for lack of a better word, there's I think for my age that might be one of the few parties we've actually see a major evolution in my 20 years of living.
That's true.
That's probably one of the 26. So I look at it and I could see that there has been a major evolution. Not saying that other parties have not evolved in such a way, but we could see it from the
You
outside.
feel a stronger sense of evolution from
right.
it.
So
Okay.
looking on it, because I'm not involved, right. So not being involved, you could see it from the outside.
And that's a good thing. You always see something from the outside and say, whoa, because the person inside may not see it that way. But once you can see it looking from the outside in, that's a great thing.
It becomes attractive.
Yeah, that's a great thing.
That's what I'm getting from you guys.
Okay, so the other question or the other criticism that I've seen of youth arms, particularly when it comes to the opposing parties are always critical of each other and so on. And particularly from people who are outside of political parties. Do you guys genuinely feel that you have a voice in the party? Is there a structure that really supports that? And also, do you feel the need to, as we said, toe the line? Like if you don't agree with something that the party is doing, do you feel like there is space to hear that?
I totally think that there is space to express ourselves. Of course, this party notice that sometimes you don't naturally always agree with everything. And I feel like constructive criticism is awesome. And most people, if they live off of a constructive criticism and adjust themselves accordingly, then that would be a really, really good thing. And I do think that youths will have a voice in this party, especially since now I am the youth president and I would be now elevated to the executive of the party. And when I go there, my concerns and queries that we have as youths, I feel comfortable in expressing them. I think that the person...
Well, that's what they vote for you for, you know.
the constituency leaders and the elected persons, speaking to them is easy in my regards. So I don't think it will be a challenge to hear our concerns, our queries, our problems to them in terms of coming from a youth. Because look at it this way. We need to accept the fact that the youths of today are the adults of tomorrow, and they will be ever-changing, and they will help to define what the islands look like in the near future. Because 10 years from now is very near, because I feel like I'm still 18. But in 10 years, someone who is 13 will be 23. And that person will now start to be the person who starts to vent their concerns, and they will be the persons who help to change and modernize stuff. Because when they go off to college, they come back with great ideas. And, of course, as you can see in St. Kitts Nevis, I would say that things are growing, things are moving. Corona might have stunted for a moment, but I guarantee you in time to come, things will be back
on track.
Yes.
Okay, as it relates to toeing the line, research again. It's conformity. Some people feel when they hear conformity is when you're coming into something, you don't want to just fall into the structure that they have. Some people have the mindset of rebellious. But as a strategic person, it's important to look at the structural organization first in order to determine what decisions or what ideas you would want to bring to the table. CCM as a party, the structure is very sound. And in any organization, it's important to look at the structure before. As I said, you try to implement things. And the structure is not hard. I would say toeing the line would not be a bad thing in this case. Even though ideas would be fresh and evolution is there, the party, the constitution lends itself to the ideas that are there. It's not that you have one strict guideline and this is what the youth should do, and because we say you should climb a tree, this is what you should do because this is what the concerned citizen movement is about. They have a part in the constitution where it allows the youth especially to bring ideas from the youth directly and to relate to the executive, and the executive, they do listen and they do implement, because it's not just the youth bringing ideas and they're saying okay, yes, or anything. They use it to guide their policies and decisions. So us, especially the youth within the party, we have a very strong input, because the executive would more or less wouldn't know what's going on with the youth. It's for us to find out that information, job availability, what are the problems affecting youth in the society, and then we sit down as an executive, we formulate as a plan, and then we go to them and say, well, number one, job availability is the thing that's hitting the youths at the moment, and this is what we think you should do. And then they say how, their role now is to say how can we help you? It's not do this or do that. They're looking at the hows. How do you want us to help you? Do you want us to organize resume development workshops? Do you want us to help them with their professional skills? Do you want us to assist them with subjects that they may be lacking to get these jobs? And then they work around it, they do a plan, they do a budget, and they present us with the budget. We gather the people and say, this is what we can help you with, and we go forward. So the youth I would say, and the women's very important roles. We hold very powerful positions within the organization.
Well, you both of you have spoken a lot about, you know, your confidence in the structure of the party. For people who are not in the party, could you explain what that structure actually looks like?
Okay, so with the CCM executive, they are, of course, the candidates. The candidates would select 2 constituency reps to sit on the executive with them. Along with that, you have the chairman, the deputy chairman, the PRO, the treasurer, the secretary. That would be the structure. And along with that, you would have the youth representative, which is Jordan or Jermaine, and then you would have the women's rep.
Okay.
But not that would be the main general executive. But then under the general executive, there's a baby executive, which is the youth arm and the women's arm. So the youth arm has their own executive, which has the president, the vice president, the secretary, the PRO, and the treasurer. It's the baby of the... And then within our youth arm, we have constituency representatives would come under the candidates themselves. So not only are we a part of the executive, we'd have constituency reps, which will report to the vice president, who has to liaise with the reps themselves. So that's direct contact again. And then the women's arm, same structure. So they are, I would say, the main executive, the women's, and then the baby executive to the larger executive.
Okay.
So
and within each youth, within the youth arm and within the women's arm, you have your own meetings and your own activities.
Definitely.
And then you join the larger party executive.
Yes.
Okay. So that sounds like you definitely have access. For one, there is space for you to actually air your views.
I wanted to jump in there when you asked about the toe in the party line aspect, because in order for us to toe the party line, it almost sounds like we're on the outskirts and we're just there to, pick this up and run. But that's not the idea that we're creating within the party. We are active, involved members that are actually shaping and drawing the party line. So we're happy to carry what we are creating. It's not so much somebody's handing this to us to run with. We are helping to shape what we're all going to run with.
Okay. Well, that's important because, the concept of towing the line usually suggests that you just have to go with whatever the party says, and there is no real space for dialogue or condescension or dissension, if you wish. So we I think for us, we think it's really important that people get a chance to say, I don't agree with the particular stance that the party is planning to take or that the party has taken, and knowing that it will be considered.
I would say, even if you don't agree, the CCM has a structure that we get to hear views. Not only is the executive a part of the decision making, but there's also members. We have party has members, so we have conventions, caucuses, and even in dialogue, the youth arm is almost 80 individuals strong. And that's like in a week. So imagine
for just starting to, that's impressive.
And the main party itself, very strong. And the CCM is made up of a lot of strong-minded individuals. They're not just, yes, let's do this. But at the end of the day, we all understand we don't want to go against the grain to the point that there is a disunity or there's struggles within the party. We share views, we may have disagreements, but we understand the mission of the party and what we actually need. And Jordan will continue with that.
I think for the last couple of weeks, the party was actually having town hall meetings. I've went to at least, they did like 6, and I went to like 4. And the thing is that they created dialogue between them and the citizens. And at the end of the day, this wasn't done to promote an election sometime soon. It was just to have a direct dialogue with each constituency and all of the citizens in the different constituencies. And I really had liked that. I really got some good information there, and you got good updates on what the government is doing, what they're about to do. And I must commend them for doing that, especially in a time where COVID, and so doing that once again makes people feel so much included.
Well, there's a comment on one of the lives, and again, you can, if you're listening on the radio and you want to see the faces of the people that you're listening to, you can the Win FM Facebook page, the Alarm Clock Facebook page, or the Alarm Clock YouTube channel. We're streaming live at the moment. But I'm really impressed so far with what you're saying. Well, I will, before I get to the question about political aspirations and so on. There was a comment on one of the lives to you, Mr. President. What are your plans for the youth arm?
I expected that.
Yes, somebody wants to know, what are your plans?
I expect that question. It's all about empowerment, and I would list out my complete plans at a later time due to the fact that, remember, our youth arm has just recently constituted. We had the elections, then we went into the convention. So now the executive is now going to start to put together a more streamlined plan. My term would be 2 years. The election,
is that for everybody, the 2 years?
Yes, for the
youth arm?
Yes, for the executive of the youth arm. And because the election is done every 2 years in August. And so we need to work out a full plan for the first year and then a full plan for the second year. But at the end of it, it's all about youth empowerment and growth.
What did you campaign on? What were your selling points?
My selling points
for you as president.
For me as president, my selling points were basically helping the youths. And one of my things is that I find that a lot of our youths don't know how to express themselves. And I want to be a part of something that helps and molds each youth in terms of making them all on the level playing field. There are persons who will be intellectual and they go off to college. and they come back and they have their degree. There are persons who come out of school, we will try to get them like certified in something. So at the end of the day, the full plan is all about empowerment, a well-rounded individual in the long term.
Okay. And Catherine and Janelle, you both contested for president as well. I'm happy to see that you all gel very well here.
The good thing about us is that we know each other for quite some time.
Like to be in
We all went into
senior pageants in
2013.
2013. Yes.
Okay. So what was the experience for you ladies going up for president, and what were your selling points?
So the experience was interesting for me. I saw the opportunity, the youth arm being created, I had ideas in my mind for what I wanted to see for it. And rather than just sit around and wait to see who takes it over and whether their ideas align with mine, I decided to put myself forward for the position, because that's just how you create the change that you want to see.
Mm-hmm.
So I put myself forward, and my platform was basically a wide spectrum of areas. I wanted youth involved in every area. So firstly, I was interested in developing the members of the group, public speaking, professional development, being able to shadow a minister if they're interested in politics, that kind of setup. And then in terms of the party, not just to come and wave our flags at the rally, but to be actively involved from the canvassing to contributing to the manifesto, to creating our own youth rally where politicians only come to speak on issues that are relevant to us. To going into the community and developing because I'm a big fan of community service. I feel like it's our job to volunteer and go back and give back. So that was an area that I would have put forward for the group as well. I'm sure Jordan would jump on board with community service as well.
I think that I've done more than my fair share of community. And the thing about it is that it's all about the full empowerment of the youths. And the good thing about us, as you said, gelling, is that I feel like since we all ran for the presidency, all of our ideas were exceptional. And I've already spoken to Janelle and tell her, that doesn't mean because you're not president, that doesn't mean that you still won't be a person active at the helm of certain things. Because at the end of the day, the youth arm is not I, the youth arm is us and we. And so I want it to be that we have an executive, but yet still each member of the youth arm has a voice. Because even when I have meetings, I see someone in the corner not even like participating, I will like say, hey, Jenny, how are you doing? Are you agreeing with what we are saying here?
Yeah.
And so that way it makes them feel comfortable. And they
You're
learn
very
to-
big on inclusion,
Yes.
making sure everybody is
Yeah,
included.
because at the end of the day, I've been around politics long enough, and I've noticed that there are some persons who do the job and still not being included. But that's why I love the CCM, is that if you put one step forward, they will try to make you put that second step.
I see.
And so that's where I stand with that. And so
Okay.
Okay, so my experience with the campaign, unlike the others, when the poster was posted and they said, well, join the youth arm, I had no idea that the youth arm has a structure similar to the executive. I thought that it was a youth arm. You come, they're just going to be a youth arm, and then, the party itself will delegate the ideas to the youth arm. It was just going to be a part of the campaign. Little did I know, when I got there, they were so serious about having a structure, because they believe in, as I said, being structured, and they're like, okay then, these are the roles that are needed to be filled, and we need to get the manifesto together and the constitution for the youth arm that reflects what's going on. I'm like, oh, Father. Then they said, okay, then right away we need nominations. But as a person who likes to be in things, I just wanted people who actually really, really never had the opportunity to do these things, to put a step forward before I would, you know? And to my surprise, by the Tuesday morning, I was nominated for several seats. I had multiple campaigns, but my thing was always leadership never has to happen from the head, as you can see within the party. You can lead from any position. So I said I could make a very strong president. I could make an excellent treasurer, secretary, anything you need me to do, I'll be there. And because we have been working together in community development, Queen Show, Calypso Show, Talented Youth, Church Group, everything, I knew that if I became the president, Jordan would be right there. He excellent planning. Janelle will be right there because she's excellent at ideas. If Jordan became the president, same switch. So I always knew that not even only the president candidates, because multiple positions had different. Anybody who ran the campaign, any of the persons that were nominated, members of the youth arm, even floor members, anybody could have been the president and did an excellent job. The youth arm has in strong members that could have taken up any role and been the best. So for me, it wasn't, I really want to be the president and let me get this done. My thing is, I was so excited to just be, if I could have been the cleaner for the youth arm, I would have sanitized all the counters. But it was a great campaign. People online actually thought that they could vote, but they didn't understand.
They didn't persons contacted me. How can I vote?
Yeah.
So I'm like,
They didn't understand. You have to register. It was serious. I had to register and have you like little ID cards and the big voting, the little tub, and you go and the big thing. The big thing, and you fold the paper.
Like polling there.
You fold the paper twice and you put it in the big. I didn't expect it. Big thing. But at the end of it, even executive, we're not separate from the youth arm itself. As I said before, every single body in the youth arm has a voice, has a role. We are all the faces because we're the executive. More or less, we have to discuss the real serious things, but the serious things are also discussed within the youth arm.
And your responsibility is to relay.
Yeah, our responsibility is to relay. So it's not that we see ourselves as a separate entity from the youth arm itself. So it's not like, oh, well, these are the people up there in the higher positions, so we're just going to sit down and not come to meetings. Youth arm members are very vocal. They have ideas and they want to see the party and the country move forward. So as a part of the executive, it's just very exciting, but I know that everybody who has the position, whether member, president, treasurer, PRO, we are all leaders, and he is excellent at what he does. Keisha, Zidane, Chris, everybody. When I tell you, if election call tomorrow and Mr. Brantley says, let me put Jordan to run in my place, or let me put Catherine to run in, same results.
Seamless.
Because, they want us to be as grounded as possible, and that's something that's very important. They just don't have us to be there. They actually teach about, you have meetings, you have to have an agenda. You're having a discussion, make sure you have your topics. You always prepare yourself, make sure you learn the words, key terms and everything, make sure you're prepared. Always have a voice. It's not just, they just don't have us to, for sure. They actually, so now if I've got a meeting, I'm like, where's the agenda? I've been taught, you have to have an agenda. If you go out,
and she even reached out to us. What are our talking points? Where are our talking points? So, we usually send those to our panelists before. So we are with you on that. Definitely need to know where you're going in the conversation before it starts. But I want to ask you all right before we take our break for lunch. All of this, you guys are you being prepared for greater candidacy? Do you have aspirations? And we ask that question very directly here at Alarm Clock because we feel like people really skirt around that question for reasons that we don't understand. So, do any of you have greater political aspirations to but to one day run as a candidate for one of your constituencies?
And we have 3 more minutes before news. So 1
Yes.
minute.
Okay, so let me answer concisely. Since we have 1 minute each. Honestly, I did not join the youth arm with any grand plans of making this a stepping stone to run as a future candidate. I am me, so I'm always willing to get involved at whatever level that I see that I can make a difference or I can make an impact. So if in the future I decide to put my name forward because I feel like that's the best way that I can make my contribution, it may happen. Is it a grand plan? No, it's really not a grand plan. I actually love teaching. I love education, and that's my goal, to keep teaching and lecture at a higher level, hopefully. But if you see my name anywhere in the future, don't be shocked, and I'm competent and confident that I'm able to serve in whatever role I decide to put myself forward in.
Okay. Jordan?
Well, to be quite honest, I think that I would be a good candidate, but it's not that I'm using this as a stepping stone to go to a higher aspiration. I've always thought that maybe one of these days, if I do decide, I would probably run in a constituency, but it has to be a calling. I have to feel like this is my time, this is what I need to do, because I don't want to always be just a supporter. There's times when you need to be on a higher level, but then you need to be a team player that plays well with the team. So who knows, maybe in the near future. I mean, I think that I have the personality for it, so.
Okay. All right. So 2 maybes. Who knows? 2 who knows?
Well, I won't want to be the third, who knows. I would say vote for me. If you see my name, vote for me. As Mr. Brantley rightfully said in a speech, it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter what home you come out of, what situation you are. Everybody can be in leadership positions, and everybody should be able to take up space. So we shouldn't be afraid of leadership positions and being candidates in the future. And I would say yes. Yes to any leadership role, yes to any candidacy, and it is high time now that everybody sees that they are competent enough, no matter what educational background you have. If you have the passion or the drive, I would say do it and be the best at what you can do. So I would say yes. 2 maybes and a yes.
2 who knows and a yes. So we all right. So we are loving the energy coming from the CCM Youth representatives here today. I think Premier Brantley and the other executives of the CCM party should be somewhere listening and smiling right now at the stellar representation that we have here with us on Alarm Clock on Inside the News here on WinFM today. We're going to take a break for the midday news, and we will be back at 12:30. And more questions, more comments, more conversation with the CCM Youth Arm. And there's also, of course, the opportunity for persons to call in and ask them your own questions. So I hope you guys are ready for that. But we know usually the comments are usually very supportive. And we trust that people are enjoying the conversation. But we will just take a break here for the midday news, and we will be back at 12:30.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play.
The Cable introduces My Cable, your convenient online cable account experience. It gives you the power to pay your bills in real time, manage your account, view your current bills and bill history, view channel lineup, request a service, and upgrade Ultra TV services. All this without ever visiting the cable office. To sign up, all you have to do is log on to www.thecable.net. Now you have the power to manage your account online with My Cable. From The Cable.
You found the sound. 98.9. Win FM.
We now bring you the Win FM Headline News. The Win FM Headline News is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, KDP Enterprises, The Grange, Carib Brewery, CNC Trading.
Without limits, happy and free. The skin you're in with no apology. The one to seize the day. Grab an LLB. Live, love, be. With LLB. Live, love, be. Live, love, be. Be who you know you can be. Grab an LLB. Live, love, be. Angostura, lemon, lime, and bitters. Live, love, be.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world. Whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous, you can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air. We get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises, telephone number 466-9595.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts, offering 24-hour nursing, therapeutic and residential care for older adults? It's situated at Otley, 7 miles east of Vastair in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodation to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020, fax 466-8221, or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com, or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
Protect your lifestyle with Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Tilly Walwyn, a local reputation and service for second to none. Securing you is our mission. People that you can trust, your business, property, we got you covered. Motor or personal, whatever it is, we got you covered. 130 years in this business, we got you covered. For all your insurance needs, visit or call us at 465-2631 or 469-5303. Delia Walwyn, people you can trust.
American actor Chadwick Boseman, who played the hero in the 2018 blockbuster Black Panther, died of cancer in Los Angeles at age 43 with his wife and family by his side. He was diagnosed with cancer 4 years ago, but did not make a public announcement. He starred in several iconic films, apart from Black Panther, which was the first superhero film to get an Oscar nomination for Best Picture of the Year and grossed more than $1 billion worldwide. The movie also drew critical acclaim for its mostly black cast. This report from NBC Saturday morning.
This morning, Hollywood is grieving the loss of Chadwick Boseman, the star who played iconic black figures, from Jackie Robinson.
You give me a uniform, you give me a number on my back, I'll give you the guts.
And James Brown.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
To King T'Challa in Black Panther. News of his death was announced on social media, detailing his 4-year battle with colon cancer. The actor never spoke publicly about his diagnosis, even as it progressed to stage 4. His family released a statement late Friday. A true fighter, Chadwick persevered through it all and brought you many of the films you have come to love so much. His passing shocked Hollywood and beyond. Former castmate Chris Evans writing, he had so much amazing work still left to create. I'm endlessly grateful for our friendship. Mark Ruffalo adding, you believed in the sacred nature of the work and gave your all. Marvel Studios tweeting, your legacy will live on forever. Boseman brought history to life with his portrayal of U.S. Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall, but it was his performance in Black Panther that made him a household name. During a Sunday sit-down with Willie Geist, he spoke candidly about the film's success.
What do you think are people responding to?
I think there's a thirst for these images. There's a thirst for a black superhero. As far as my character goes, there's a real search for how do I lead? And I think people are searching for that, leaders that actually care about the people.
In the role as commencement speaker at Howard University, his alma mater, he would deliver a powerful speech to inspire even more lives.
Everything that you fought for was not for yourself. It was for those that come after.
Howard alum and vice presidential candidate Kamala Harris tweeted, my friend and fellow Bison Chadwick Boseman was brilliant, kind, learned, and humble. This morning, fans, friends, and family are remembering this real-life superhero who was fighting his own battle behind the scenes. Chadwick Boseman was 43 years old.
And we learned that Boseman died in his home. His wife and family were by his side. Just a devastating loss. Guys, back to you.
Kathy Park, thank you for looking back at his legacy. He was this African-American icon, and to think about how strong he was, that he shot so many of those films while he was battling that disease.
He just inspired so many children to imagine themselves as a black superhero. Today, so many remembering him saying, rest in power, King, and we do as well.
Yeah, a lot of people saying that.
The Thanksgiving service for the late Richard Keynes is being held at 1 p.m. today at Warner Park in Bastyr. Traffic arrangements are in place for parking and traffic flow. Parking for members of Parliament, Diplomatic Corps, and Nevis Island Administration officials is on the eastern side of Warner Park by the old scoreboard. Parking for family members on the western mound. Parking for senior government officials, honorary councils, and members of the judiciary is on the parking lot next to the tennis court. Parking for the public is at Carnival City. Parking is restricted on the opposite side of the football house on Lozak Road and between the Methodist Hall, Old Girls School on Victoria Road and the corner of Seaton Street. Vehicular traffic allowed to flow northwards only on Victoria Road. The Alexandria Hospital in Nevis now has 2 new ambulances. The NIA has financed one of the vehicles, the Social Security Board the other. Premier Mark Brantley at the handing over ceremony on Friday, August 28, said the vehicles were purpose-built for Nevis. The Director of Social Security, Mr. Antonio Maynard, said the board contributed close to $250,000 to purchase one of the 2020 Chevrolet Express Type 2 ambulances. That amount, according to Mr. Maynard, is, quote, an advancement of 3 years' worth of Social Security annual contribution to the Nevis Ministry of Health, end of quote, covering the period 2020 to 2022. The National Assembly convenes on Thursday, 3rd September, at 10 o'clock in the morning at the National Assembly's Chambers Government Headquarters in Bastyr. The order paper and other papers were not available on Saturday. A government release says they will be disseminated later.
During a press conference on Friday, August 28th, the cable launched its new site and its new My Cable account management capability. After the permanent increase in broadband speeds for all internet packages made effective on July 22nd, the cable is now undertaking its new step in their overall vision, allowing customers the ability to manage their accounts. The cable CEO Patricia Walters at the press conference described the capabilities of the account management functionality.
So basically, you can access your cable account online, you can view your bills, you can pay your bills, you can upgrade your services. So everyone knows the Patriots are playing on sports match right now. You should not have to come into the store. You can go online, click and to subscribe to the sports pack and watch cricket, T20 cricket. You don't need to come into the store. You can troubleshoot and refresh your own equipment. So all your equipment's listed. Your modem's playing at one rooms in your house. You can go through the troubleshoot guide, refresh it. You don't have to call the office to do that, and it should come back up. In most cases it does. If not, then you can also request a technician's help. You can upgrade, you can buy TV packages, you can send emails to our customer service. The payment is real time, so no more do you have to go to the bank, pay your bill, then say it's not reflected on my account. It's real time. As soon as you refresh, it will be deducted from your bill balance. Send an email to customer services or from the palm of your hands.
The My Cable functionality allows customers to pay online in real time, upgrade their internet and cable plans, view their bill balance, and carry out simple troubleshoots for unscheduled internet interruptions. There are also plans to roll out more options in functionality for My Cable users. Walters at the press conference spoke about maintaining the cable's relevance.
The real reason that we're here is the launch of My Cable. One of the questions that haunts me as a CEO is, how does this company remain relevant to its customers? How do we keep evolving so that customers want our services and don't go to someone else who may be smaller, more flexible, more attractive to them? What's important to our customers right now? And one of the things that's important, of course, apart from affordable, accessible broadband speeds, is how do I interact with the cable that's convenient to me, that's safe for me, and that's easy. And our answer is My Cable online account management.
The standout theme for the press conference was vision, and Othniel Heiliger, chairman of the board for the cable, expressed that another big vision of the cable is to become a regional name in the telecommunications market after addressing the rumors that the cable would be sold.
And one of the things that I suggested, that instead of selling, we need to start buying. So when you go to places like Dominica and Grenada and Antigua, and you ask the question, who is the service provider? They will be able to say, the cable. So it's not the cable for St. Kitts alone, but I see as a regional company. So that's what we want to do. Okay? Last year, year before, we could recall it was in the year that we were going to sell the cable is for sale. That was one of the things which I totally objected to as chairman of the board, along with the other directors, that we cannot sell the cable. It is a local company. And if we sell the cable, we would be giving away our lifeblood.
Walters also made mention of another vision the company has, making available for every community access to at least 100 megabytes of internet speed as the starter internet package.
Our vision, and we said it last year, is for every single citizen and resident of St. Kitts and Nevis to have access to minimum broadband speeds of 100 megs. So when we say we had 620 a year ago, that's now 15, that's going to go 100 megs minimum.
She went on to quote the governor of ECCB on what is a vision, saying a vision is not only what could be, but what it should be.
I coined a phrase from the governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. He said, what is a vision? A vision is not only what could be, but it's what should be. A vision isn't just what could be, but it's what should be. And it should be that every citizen in St. Kitts and Nevis has access to minimum broadband speeds of 100 megs that's affordable, available, and accessible. And And that's the vision of the cable, to deploy that in the next year to 2 years. And we have a huge network investment starting very, very shortly to enable that vision.
Heiliger in his remarks hinted at the possibility of an initial public offerings in the future, making share offerings available to the public for investment.
There will be some time when we start selling shares within the cable, and I'm advising each and every one, within the sound of my voice, when the cable put those stocks up there for sale, make certain that you're part of it. You be an owner, and you, as a local petition division, you can make a decision when it comes along the business of the cable.
Although they are putting some focus on their online capabilities, a streaming platform from the cable is still not available. But Walters indicated it is well within the vision of the company.
Minister of Education, Youth, Sports and Culture Jonelle Powell says the Ministry of Education, in consultation with the National Task Force on COVID-19, has determined how best to reopen schools while maintaining the necessary health and safety protocols to mitigate the spread of COVID-19. In a recent message to the Federation, Minister Powell mentioned that Thursday the ministry released guidelines for the primary and the secondary schools in St. Kitts and Nevis, which is compliant with the National Overall Recovery Plan and the Government Emergency Powers COVID-19 No. 13 Regulation 2020 orders. The Ministry of Education developed a framework for operation with a series of guidelines to aid principals and school management teams in the effective management of schools during this period, Powell said. He mentioned a few important elements included in the guidelines.
Critical elements of the framework are as follows. First, all schools are required to follow the Ministry of Education guidelines for the reopening of schools 2020-2021, which stress the importance of hand washing, physical distancing, and face masks. Face masks must be worn by all staff and students, particularly when physical distancing is not possible. We cannot stress this enough. Second, all schools will implement entry protocols which require health screening for all persons who wish to access the school's compound.
The ministry wants students back in school as soon as possible for face-to-face instruction in a safe environment. As a result, communication, entry screening protocols, entry and departure protocols, health procedures, and more are included in the protocols, the minister emphasized.
These protocols, which we are releasing to the nation today, stress several elements, including communication and ensuring that a process is in place to notify the school community of a positive test and work with the Ministry of Health to activate contact tracing procedures. Schools will follow instructions from the Ministry of Health for all matters regarding entry screening protocols, quarantine, exclusion and return to school for persons with a positive test for COVID-19 and those who had close contact. Third, all school systems must meet a series of benchmarks before reopening, including adopt entry and departure protocols as outlined in the framework for the reopening of schools, set forth physical distancing protocols in all teaching, learning, and administration spaces in conjunction with effective signage to support adherence, adopt health procedures for cleaning and sanitization, implement a system for tracking student attendance during both in-person and virtual learning spaces. Incorporate equity in educational assessments and placement of students in keeping with Ministry of Education policies.
Powell appealed for adherence to COVID-19 protocols for the protection of students, teachers, and everyone in the education sector. A local marketing agency is offering support to help business owners across the Federation recover from the economic impact of COVID-19. 869 Jobs, an online platform, is an advertising and promotional agency offering consultations on improving marketing strategies, expanding reach, and unlocking new sources of revenue. Speaking with WinFM, 869 Jobs marketing manager and consultant Kimoy O'Loughlin said that the company offers 3 separate marketing packages ranging from $50 to $150 Eastern Caribbean dollars.
So we have the basic package which starts at $50, and what you get with that is being on the website along with social media marketing across our social media platforms. The other one is $100. It's the same thing, but the packages differs according to the engagement and the reach of which you as a business owner wish to have with your target audience. There's also a $150 package as well.
O'Loughlin added that 869 Jobs are strong supporters of local businesses and locally made products.
At 869 Jobs, we are strong supporters of local businesses. We have on our website designated page allocated for locally made goods. So if you go on our website, you will see a tab in red called Locally Made. And what we're trying to do is push our locally made products on social media to the general public. We have experience in this as well, where you might be a creator of soaps, but only a selected few know that you do that. You don't market your business because you probably don't know where to start, or you haven't gotten the advice as marketing is very important for your business. So what we want to do is help you on that front. Right now, we do a lot of ordering online, purchasing goods from outside of the country, when you can get equally as good as any other products that you will find out there. But people just don't know that these things exist. Right? So what we want to do is help our local entrepreneurs to promote their goods and their services to the local economy.
To sign up, you may visit the website at www.869jobs.com, enter your business details, and once you have submitted your information, a representative from 869 Jobs will reach out to you and will guide you through the process of choosing the best marketing plan for your business.
According to the package that you choose, we will set up a profile of your business on the website. On this profile, it would have all your business contact information, such as your number, your address, the location of the business, all of your social media pages. It will also have a description of what your business is, and there's also photos of the products or the service that you offer. There's also a section where you can put video content on whatever your business is offering. So for the business, is a way to promote your business. And for the end user, who is the customer or the consumer, this is an area where you can go to find whatever you need that is being offered locally.
The online platform has been in the works for over a year, but launched on July 15, 2020, and can be found on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube by using the handle at 869jobs or by email at info@869jobs.com and telephone at 1-869-766-2973.
Hello, this is Julie Candler with the BBC News. 17 journalists who've been reporting for Western media on the post-election protests in Belarus have had their accreditation revoked. The Belarusians and Russians were working for the BBC, Reuters, AFP and other media. Our Moscow correspondent Steve Rosenberg, who's in Minsk, described being questioned himself by the Belarus police.
We were among 50 journalists who were basically invited, in inverted commas, to get into a police van, and we were driven to a police station in Minsk for a document check, we were told. We showed our documents, they were all in order, but we were held there, and then our bags were searched. I was made to switch on my telephone to show pictures, photographs, give contact information, and then after a couple of hours we were released. We weren't treated violently, but it was certainly a clear attempt to interfere in the work of a large number of journalists here.
For the first time, North Korea has posted a series of coded messages on YouTube. In a short clip that was put on the video sharing platform by the state-run agency Radio Pyongyang, a female voice lists what are posted as assignments for the remote education university, instructing so-called expedition agents to study what appear to be book sections and page numbers. More from our Asia-Pacific editor Celia Hatton.
In a video clip that lasts for just over a minute, a black screen with a string of numbers is displayed while a female voice reads instructions in Korean. She lists what are described as assignments for an unnamed remote education university, instructing so-called expedition agents to study what appear to be book sections and page numbers, repeating phrases such as number 23 on page 564. North Korea has broadcast similar mysterious messages over the radio since the Cold War era.
Police in Berlin have ordered a big demonstration against Germany's coronavirus restrictions to disperse. The authorities said participants, estimated to be around 18,000, were flouting rules on social distancing and other safety regulations, and that the police had no other alternative. More than 170 cyclists have set off from Nice on cycling's most prestigious race, the Tour de France. Questions have been raised about whether the event will be cut short because of the possible impact of the virus. More from our sports reporter, Alex Capstick.
The riders removed their face masks before they rolled across the start line in Nice, which is also where they will finish the opening stage of this year's race. And although crowds have been restricted, fans line the streets as they set off. Despite rising rates of infection in France, the Tour was given the go-ahead. Special measures are in place and the French government ordered the organisers to implement a rule which would see teams eliminated if 2 or more members test positive for COVID.
World news from the BBC. Swedish police have arrested up to 20 people after the burning of the Quran led to riots in the southern city of Malmö. Cars were set on fire and police, firefighters and ambulance crews pelted with stones. Police say some 300 people, mostly young men, took part in the unrest. The UN and Washington have urged Libya's leaders to return to a full and inclusive political process to meet the aspirations of the Libyan people. The call follows the suspension of the Interior Minister by the internationally recognised government of Fayez al-Sarraj late on Friday night. Fatih Bashagha had criticised militia gunmen for firing on crowds protesting in Tripoli against poor living conditions. Rana Jawad reports.
Libya's Minister of Interior, Fathi Bashagha, released a statement saying he accepted an investigation into his handling of the recent protests on condition that he gets questioned publicly in a televised inquiry. Last weekend, and in the days that followed, civilians took to the streets to protest the deteriorating living conditions and access to public services like electricity and water. Some were met by live gunfire, which the now suspended Minister of Interior described as acts carried out by armed infiltrators.
Thousands of people have protested in the Mauritian capital Port Louis against the government's handling of an oil spill from a Japanese ship and the subsequent deaths of dozens of dolphins. Demonstrators drummed and honked their horns, some calling for the government to resign. Around 1,000 tons of oil spilled into fragile marine areas after the ship struck a coral reef last month. One of the world's great galleries, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, reopens in New York today. Its 2 million artefacts have been off limits for 5 months owing to the coronavirus crisis. Ticket timing will be in place to stagger the expected crowds who will have to follow predetermined routes through the rooms. BBC News.
That was the Win FM headline news, brought to you by KDP Enterprises, Caribbean Alliance, Carib Brewery, CNC Trading, The Grange.
Protect your lifestyle with Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Till you walk with a local reputation and service for second to none. Securing you is our mission. People that you can trust, your business, property, we got you covered. Motor or personal, whatever it is, we got you covered. 130 years in this business, we've got you covered. For all your insurance needs, visit or call us at 465-2631 or 469-5303. DLE Walwyn, people you can trust.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts, offering 24-hour nursing, therapeutic and residential care for older adults? It's situated at Otley, 7 miles east of Vastair in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodation to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020, fax 466-8221, or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com, or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world. Whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous, you can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air. We get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises, telephone number 466-9595.
Without limits, happy and free. The skin you're in with no apology. The one to seize the day. Grab an LLB. Live, love, be. With LLB. Live, love, be. Live, love, be. Be who you know you can be. Grab an LLB. Live, love, be. Angostura, lemon, lime and bitters. Live, love, be.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM. People make the world go
And we're back to the second half of Inside the News, the alarm clock edition. And we're here with the CCM Youth Arm reps. So the president, we have the secretary, and we have a member of the Youth Arm. They all ran for the presidency position. And so we thought that we would all bring them in. They're perfectly gelled together. And we just left the discussion talking about general things, you know, their age, their occupation, why did they get involved, what made CCM attractive, the CCM Youth Arm, and so forth. And now we're going to get to the bigger things. And Jan has left us. So they're stuck with me now. For the second half, and we'll be talking about local and federal elections and a few national issues. So I'll get to ask the hard questions. So before we start, we want to acknowledge the Honorable Mark Brantley. I see he has shared the link and supporting you guys. That's very, very good. Shout out to you, Mr. Premier, for logging in. I trust that you are very impressed, because we are impressed with their representation here today. So we're going to get right into it. Now, we know that CCM won the last election. I know that the Youth Arm has just started. Tell us, were any of you involved in the victory from the last election?
Well, I actually worked at one of the polling stations in St. Thomas's, not in my constituency, in the next constituency, because that one was won by Alexis, and I wanted us to all have those 3 seats, so I went in overdrive for that constituency. So it was an eye-opening experience, because that was my first time, and realizing how how big of a deal being on a certain side is when you see people come in and of a different side and they're like give you that look. I'm like, oh my. But you know, for me, I'm a people person, so I still approach and say and ask what their number is to get in, and I will just give them. But I mean, it was a good experience.
Okay, that's good. That's good. What about you?
I believe we all are
Instrumental.
directly or indirectly. That's a political answer.
Yeah.
Involved.
It is very diplomatic.
Yes, I'm going to give a diplomatic answer because I feel like the success is the many small efforts of everyone, and whether it be the people who made the little containers with the sandwiches for the polling stations, or I volunteered myself as a poll clerk, not directly sitting with a party, but just to be involved in the process and to see how elections actually run from the background. So I wasn't really on the campaign trail or rallying behind anyone, but it was good to see that the CCM party was able to obtain 3 seats at that level. I being a member of the constituency that Mr. Jeffers is in, I was very happy for him, not just at party level, but I was just excited that they were able to hold their own, and it was now one united front going down, sitting at the table, being able to get their voices heard. So I was glad.
I do believe, like my good colleague here mentioned, that everyone contributed to the victory, because every single one of those votes for the party contributed to them winning. And since they did, in fact, get my vote, I indeed contributed to the last CCM victory. But as in terms of getting actively involved in the party itself, no, I was not prior to elections. I had a different project I was working on that I felt would have been best achieved if I were to steer clear of fully endorsing a party, which I'm sure we'll get into in a bit.
Yes. All right. So okay. So it's a bit new for some of you, and it's actually quite interesting to see. I would also like to know, so you spoke about everybody made that contribution. Yes. We saw that Nevis would have got that 3-seat sweep. What do you think really contributed to that? I know you guys spoke earlier about the evolution of the party, but on the ground, what do you think? What are people saying? What were people saying? Because we can't stay in St. Kitts and actually know, right? Because you might see things on social media and it might be the total opposite on the ground and the opposite side.
Okay, so when the poll specialists actually announced that the constituency that I was in would have been, it's normally a seat for the opposition, was so sure. Weeks before I told my mother, I knew there was going to be a shift. I could feel it in the atmosphere, because normally with politicians, when they're sure about their seats, they're not really active. When you're sure about a position, you don't really go out and seek the votes. The difference was, not to let out the secrets, but I would think, the difference was with the Concerned Citizens movement, they don't leave anything to chance. So they're not saying, okay, this is a sure seat for me, so I'm not going to campaign. This is a sure seat for me, so I'm not going to go out and reinforce my ideas, reinforce why you should vote for me. Mm-hmm. And I think that is something that normally leads to the downfall of many politicians, not only in St. Kitts and Nevis, but regionally. You're sure of a seat, so you feel like it's going to always be yours. When you have something, it's important to keep it, and to keep that, for something to be kept, you have to always, reassurance is key. Mm-hmm. So when you give that opportunity for somebody else to come in and be reassuring to the thing that you have or the person you have, they end up coming and taking it away from you. Mm-hmm. And what Mr. Jeffers did was very strategic. He not only came, but he kept the campaign going. So he did not just say, okay, this is not my seat. He pushed, and sometimes you come forward and you're not going to win. So little by little, you gain 1 or 2, 3 or 4, and then you just keep pushing the reason. And it wasn't, I think the campaign from the Concerned Citizen movement, it wasn't targeted to local They really push federal ideas, and I think that was one of their strong points. We're not campaigning for local purposes. We're campaigning to get all 3 seats, and this is the mandate that we want to go down, and one sound, one voice. So that was the campaign. I think it was very strong for them in that direction. So that's why they won, in my view.
Okay, I agree that we find as a lot of people do get comfortable. That's a hot topic and about politicians that, they go in and they get comfortable with their positions and they do not do what they're accustomed to do. And it's the same thing in, I guess, relationships. People don't understand it takes work, and it's the same concept. You have to remain engaged. You have to, continue doing the hard work and finding new ways to make contributions as the times evolve. And so I hope that with the new youth that you guys would continue to encourage your representatives to continue to be engaged and be innovative in their approach as they serve people and represent people, because that is a huge issue. I don't know. I want to say that accountability is important, and transparency, and the more individuals understand that they have people that they represent and they have to report to and they have to listen to, then they will continue. They will always be on their heels about doing the work that they have to do. I don't know, we might not have many examples of people who are remain in that fiery passion to represent. So I really hope to see that change or transition being made with such a powerful youth arm as it relates to your representatives. Now, how do you feel about the current electoral structure? We might have spoken about it a long time ago on Alarm Clock if you were able to listen. But you have the federal elections and you have a local being close after. So you have the federal for St. Kitts and Nevis, and then Nevis comes right after sometimes, and then there's a local election. What are your feelings about that?
I think that with the current system that we have, it has some pros and cons for Nevis. It's not all bad, but it's definitely not all good either, in terms of the fact that we basically go to the polls every 2.5 years almost, approximately, 2-3 years. So there's a kind of voter fatigue sometimes, where people feel like, oh my God, we're just constantly in campaign mode. It's always in campaign mode, which tires you out. But at the same time, it helps to keep our local politicians accountable and staying in contact with the communities, because you can't just stay away for 4 years and come back on the 5th year in Nevis, because you're constantly seeking re-election, whether locally or federally. So there's those positive and negatives, and then we have the issue of cost. Of course, the cost to have multiple elections, but in order to actually get those elections to coincide, the issue would have to be moved towards having a fixed date for elections where it's established at the federal level. That's the only way I can see to get it done effectively.
Okay. You said something that's really important. I think that when I went to Nevis, it was notable for me that they didn't have, for the federal elections, they didn't have the signage.
Yeah, we had no posters.
No. I was like, what? Am I in the same country? I went to Nevis and I'm driving. I was like, but there is no billboard.
Yes. The thing that I always tell people about the CCM parties is that I've seen them have election and don't have one billboard up and still win elections. Is at the end of the day is the action of the politician. The politicians in Nevis and of the CCM party tends to be so interactive with the people that it's not like it's not like they wait a couple months and don't see them. But you see them here, there, everywhere. And I know for sure our premier is very active in terms of visiting small businesses here, there. So people see him often. People see the elected members pretty often. And so once you interact with the people, as I tell you, as I stress all the time, it's all about feeling the love, the inclusion. And so the thing is that all of that is not needed necessarily. But rest assured that they are campaigning still.
All right, so we're going to go back to the question so that you can address it as well. And we asked, how do you feel about the structure of the federal and local elections? I want to say here that the general public, you're encouraged to weigh in as well. And we can take calls, 466-0989, 662-0989, 762-0989. So we're asking, how do you feel about the current electoral structure with federal elections and local being right close after?
Well, to be honest, because I like politics and I like the vibe of it, I naturally don't have a problem with the structure, especially that is, remember, it's at the end of the day, two entities. It's one that will govern over Nevis affairs, and then they'll have the federal, what governs over Nevis and St. Kitts. So the thing is that the only way you can really get it to either coincide is one, have a fixed date, as General says, or two, it's done separately. Like everything, St. Kitts is vote, all Kittitians vote for the parishes in St. Kitts, the constituencies, and then Nevis. So it's not like Nevis and St. Kitts has to have like a federal and a local. Both of them have their local. But then that means they'll have two different governments. So that's how I look at it.
Okay. I know I don't want to get into that issue, but let's go to Catherine first before we get there.
Well, as you know, the affairs of any country, especially St. Kitts and Nevis, is guided by the Constitution that was set by our forefathers. So even before we have to talk about the alignment or realignment of local and federal elections, the alignment has to come from the Constitution. And I believe that St. Kitts and Nevis is a democratic country, yes, but at the end of the day, the onus is on the people to decide what they want, whether it be elections, policies, or anything. And with the alignment, it's a tricky thing. It will have to call for constitutional reform, as I said before. It will have to be in finance. Would have to be one that would be a mark of it. Nevis, especially, it's a tricky thing. It's for the politicians, but we don't shy away from the fact that Nevis is important for us in Nevis to be able to set our mandate and guide our policies, and it would call for St. Kitts to have their local elections, Nevis to have their local elections, but we also would like to still see the unity. So we would have St. Kitts, the local elections, Nevis, the local elections, and then there an executive that guides both St. Kitts and Nevis to make common decisions to go as a fit. But right now, as it sits, I like the fact that there's both a local and federal election from the Nevis end, because it keeps the politicians accountable. They're in constant watch. Is not like we vote for them and then they settle because they have 5 years. They know that things have to get done, and what they say have to be done are in the blink of an eye you get change.
Because
so, yeah.
At the end of the day, Nevisians tend to go off of what they see. So if you're not working for them, a change can happen. And so it keeps them abreast and make sure that they're always active. And that's why I love having both federal and local.
As Mr. Brantley said at the convention, nobody is sweating at the two elections. We love campaign mode. We love campaign mode.
All right, we have a caller, so we're going to take the call now. Good afternoon, caller.
Good afternoon. I noticed that most of the panelists seem to be echoing the view expressed by one of them that she joined because she was impressed by the structure and organization of the party. And I guess she translated that to mean that we can get things done. That is very much debatable. I mean, the opposition would say that they did more of consequence and did it with less, less resources at their disposal. Okay? But it almost seems kind of opportunistic to say that, especially since, generally speaking, a ruling party has less difficulty in attracting new membership because it is viewed as, having a winning, in inverted commas, disposition by the mere fact that they, at that point in time, it occupies office and has the reins of power. I was somewhat disappointed that I did not hear more coming from the panelists in line of ideology, principles, and values and legacy of the party, of the CCM party. Okay, for in the final analysis, these things will be more enduring than things like the cult of the personality of the leadership or the policy position at any given point in time. Okay, I was trying, for instance, to find the motto of the party, right? It's interesting that if you look at Wikipedia, if you go on Google, the party was founded in 1987. That's what it says, and it says the ideology is described as division, nationalism, conservatism, constitutional monarchy, and anti-communist. Okay, does that really reflect what CCM is about, right? And like I asked, what exactly is the motto? What do they stand for? Because it's not good to have other people define you. And finally, I would really like to know if the panelists are personally satisfied with the state of our politics, both in Nevis and in St. Kitts Nevis, in terms of the relations between St. Kitts and Nevis. And I ask that question in light of the suggestion that being conformist is just as important as being revolutionary and changing things, okay? As some people, I guess, prefer to be conformist than be prepared to break the eggs to make the omelette. Okay, so I'd like to hear the panelists' view of those points that I mentioned.
All right, we'll get to that in a few. Thank you, Carla. Thank you very, very much. One of the things... All right, we'll take this call before we make any further comments. Good afternoon, Carla.
Good afternoon, panelists.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I admire your ambition to be future leaders.
Thank you.
And I hope that you will develop some sort of ideology of true leadership, and not to any one of you to ever aspire to that spirit of greed, putting out your hand to want to collect 2 salaries in this kind of pandemic and economic disaster around the world and in a smaller country. A lot of people now working, a lot of people catching the royal, you know that. So I hope that you all would develop this. I congratulate you all, and that nobody who aspires to leadership in your panel would develop any spirit of greed and selfishness, looking for 2 salaries when the month up, when many people not working. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Carla. Thank you for your comments. All right, so the previous caller would have mentioned that, of course, there are several elements that help to make up a party, and I disagree that you guys did not mention, as you did mention the motto. You did say it.
Yes, I did.
You did talk about the ideology was attractive.
Mhm.
The evolution of the party was attractive, in terms of leadership and the embracing of the youth and so forth. And Catherine even mentioned that she would have seen the party grow.
Yeah.
And we could see that as well from the outside. But There are quite a few things that he asked to address, so we're going to get right to them. I know he asked a question about conformity and stuff like that.
Yes,
So
conformity
let's
versus evolution. And he really did touch on a number of points. As he said, he wasn't listening from the start. So I didn't mention the ideology of a party because it's important to look at the basis, the structure, where you're coming from, the initial mission statement of the party. You're going to take the other call?
Yes, let's
Yeah.
take this other call. All right, we lost them.
Yes, as I said before, it's important to, when you're going into something, you have to do your research. And I'm not only about highlighting the successes of the CCM party. As I previously stated, my grandmother was a part of the first council of the Nevis Reformation Party in 1970, George C. Brooks.
Mhm.
My great uncle is Joseph N. France, that's her brother. So, growing up, people always saw me as somebody who would definitely eventually be involved in politics. So I'm not a person who just come and say, let me laud CCM and say, well, CCM is on and CCM is great and it's only CCM. I see every party, every political party in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis as being major contributors to the development and the success of where we are today. And before we can say, oh, the people that are now are who have the guiding principles, we need to look at where we're coming from. We're going to take the caller.
All right, let's take this caller.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to the young people.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It shows that our federation has a future.
Yes, I do agree.
And our future, as the song does say, our tomorrow must be greater than today.
Yes.
And I expect, and it has begun, for the youth to help to get rid of this tribalism. When the young people are willing to associate with other young people from other political parties, we're getting somewhere. Because, you know, the older people, well, some of them, 'cause I'm not in the foolishness, I mean, actually hate people across party lines, not willing to communicate. I recall some years there was a youth thing, and the young PAM and Young Labour was here. That is how it's supposed to be. So I don't expect young CCM to go and fight young NRP if there's one. You know, so I am asking all of you to try and don't allow the older people to drag you into old party wars. We want a new kind of politics that is less abrasive, less tribalistic. And if it will take the young people to do so, I commend them. 'Cause how much longer can we carry on with this? When Mr. Bradshaw was here and when Mr. Parry, I mean, really? Other countries moving on. So I want all of you, get it in your head, we're not looking for a next set of warriors. We're looking for nation builders. And your party at Nevis should be made stronger because of you. And whenever you are invited to take part in national discussions along with other parties, nobody's Labour is not the enemy of PAM, you know, not PLP. Some of the older people think so, and I don't expect CCM to be the enemy of NRP. Don't allow the old people to put you into that. Even on your own, you know, you all can organize training sessions because you're new. It would be for the good of the Federation. So God bless all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank
Have a good
you.
day.
I do agree, and
With-
that's what we would
with
like
that,
to do
that
at Alarm
same
Clock.
caller, that's strange because I had a question last week. The person called me. So you're against the leader of the NRP youth? I said, no, it's not that. At the end of the day, we all youths. At the end of the day, if we want to have a discussion with them, we can have a discussion because at the end of the day, the issues and concerns that the youths would have on the opposite side would definitely be the same issues and concerns on our side. And having a discussion doesn't mean that we're against each other or we join. It's just that at the end of the bigger picture is all about, for the NRP youth arm and the CCM youth arm, is youth empowerment.
Yes.
And so that's how I look at that.
Yeah.
I want to chime in before we
get
let the first caller get, eclipsed after all these other calls. So I want to go back to him for a second. He did mention about the ideology and that he didn't hear us speak about that, which, yes, Catherine did mention some of that. But he specifically pointed out that I referenced leadership, which I did because for me, leadership and the hierarchy structure is very important to me in terms of my support for any organization. You can have anything written on paper, you can have the best ideology written down on paper, but if I have no confidence that your slate of representatives would represent that ideology and execute it, then I simply cannot support you based on what is written down. So I choose to support a party that has consistently recruited individuals that I think are representative of my ideals and how I want to see the country run. And that's how I determine where to throw my support. Everyone has their option to decide how they vote, but that will definitely be how I determine mine. In terms of, he asks again about whether we were content with the state of politics. Politics in the Federation and in the Caribbean and in the entire world actually needs an overhaul. There's room for improvement, and that's why we're emphasizing more young people coming into the fray, because you need new ideas, you need individuals who haven't already been tainted by the system. So no, I'm not content with the system. This is the one that we have currently, and because I'm not content, I've opted to move into the inner circle where I can hopefully make a difference, especially in terms of how we relate to each other when we're campaigning. Another caller spoke about that. The attacks that I see launched on social media and in person, unnecessary. And as someone who may or may not run, I don't support any of that in terms of how our politics is. He also mentioned the relations between St. Kitts and Nevis. It's a work in progress. We're siblings, just like siblings in your household. We get along and you bicker, but I love the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Love St. Kitts plus Nevis together. I love being able to come over. I love interacting with the half of my family that's from St. Kitts. And I don't support any actual division of my great federation that I love so much.
All right, so you mentioned, and the previous caller mentioned the divisiveness and so forth, but you also mentioned that there's work to be done. We have been discussing electoral reform, but are there any things that you would love to see reformed in our electoral processes?
The integration of technology in the voter counting process, it makes it more. I like the idea of what they tried to do the last election, but we are evolving world. Technology, a lot of people are not technology natives, and it's something that we have to embrace. I saw it in the Anguilla election, the use of the technology to count the ballots, and it makes it a more quicker and efficient way instead of the long waits. So I would really like to see that, and that would be a big step in it, instead of being up for hours. Being up for hours is good because you sit as a family and you count, and but the technology it makes it quicker, and then as it relates to recounts, the voting recounts will be faster. But it's the embracing of technology as it relates to other parts of electoral reform, as we stated before, the CCM Youth Arm is a new youth arm, and we are learning. It's not that we come in and they're tainting us, quote unquote, or they're telling us this is how it is and this is the way. They're teaching us, and we are learning from not only the CCM side, the NRP side, and we are seeing, we get introduced to the Constitution and these things. So that's a discussion to be had at the higher level. Okay? Our mandate and our mission is to make sure that the youths are heard, that ideas are shared, and that the situations that we are facing, they are noticed and we are making a change. Electoral reform and confirmation versus revolution and those kind of things, those are things that are dealt at the executive level. Those are things that are being dealt with, and we are focused on what we are here for. And that's a problem in our society. Sometimes you're put in positions and you find yourself fighting battles that are above you, and sometimes you need to say these things are above us. Not saying that we're not going to get to that point, because we're going to evolve as members in the party and we're going to reach in those kind of positions. But right now, our main focus is the youth and making an impact as youth and putting our ideas forward and get them heard. So that's our mission, and we are sticking to our mission. We're not here to fight battles that we didn't create or to pick up anything for anybody. That's why the CCM said, let's get the youth on board, let's get the women on board. They didn't get us on board to help them to fight the battles. They got us to empower us and to have us put forward what the youth needs, our mandate, and that's what we are here to do, and that's what we're going to focus on, and nothing will sway us. So the ideas and the pulling back and forth is not a part of us. That's not what we're here for, and we're just here for the revolution of the youth within the party.
Agree.
So nothing will sway us to any other point.
Agree.
But the youth.
All right. Very strong position. Anything else of anyone? Anything else you want to see reformed?
Well, in terms, as Catherine mentioned, in terms of reforming and changing, I agree that we are new. They're still learning certain things, and I don't want to get too deep into saying that we want this reform, that reform. I need to make sure I know all of the nitty-gritty of what's needed, and then I can make an adjustment or a statement about that.
Yeah, informed decisions. We can't just get up and say, well, we are far against or we are fighting. One important thing about the CCM party or any party structure, because I would believe it's happening in NRP, you get introduced to policies. There's, as I said, the Constitution that we have to learn. Is not that we just don't have the book. We have to learn it, because when we get into the educational educated discussions with them, we have to be able to say, according to Constitution, page 13.4, breakdown section B, this is what it says and this is what it's backed up by. So we can't just come on here or go anywhere and make wild responses or wild guesses. Our guesses as a youth arm, or our responses have to be backed by points. It has to be backed by the Constitution. It has to be backed by research. So we can't give answers to things that maybe are frivolous. We have to always give educated responses.
Okay, so one of the things I say about that is that, remember, you're also individuals, and you would have had these experiences in the processes of elections, and so that's where that question comes from. Making an informed decision is basically based on your experience as well, and not just that you have to read 10,000 pages of anything to be able to respond. But let's continue. What role do you believe that young people have in the upcoming local elections? So you guys are due to start getting that ball rolling and so forth. And so, well, as we said, you're always in election mode, so the ball is probably always rolling.
Always.
Do you think that the youth now having been created, would you be able to make a contribution to that?
Well, naturally, youths don't technically want to so much be a part of politics, because since I've become the youth president and I see youths out there, I ask them if they would be interested in joining, and persons would say, oh, I don't want to be a part of politics. So I'm telling them, yes, we have an affiliation with a political party, but at the end of the day, it's all about the empowerment of a youth and development of the youth. In terms of for the upcoming elections, of course, since we now have a youth arm, I think that will have an impact on the youths in terms of getting them out and vote and have a voice. Because at an early age, I noticed that once you vote and you go anywhere and have a conversation and somebody asks you, did you vote? And you said yes, that's when you start a conversation. But if you don't vote, then what's the purpose of talking politics or talking things if you don't basically be a part of it?
All right. In terms of the upcoming elections, I mean, youth have a role to play in every aspect of the election, and I think that's what we need to push and emphasize. It's not, okay, there's a small role over here for you and you can fill that. It's every role that needs to be filled. We need to be there, from candidates down to campaigning, down to influencing the manifestos that go forward. That is my opinion of the role that youths have to play in any election, to actively be involved in the process, to put forward the issues and ideas that affect youths, not just wave your flag and go woohoo. And that's the ideology that we're pushing as a youth arm.
And also to add to that, as we saw in the federal election, we know that St. Kitts and Nevis, the youth, especially mostly are business owners, and you see them as at the technological aspect. We have the dancers, we have the graphic designers, the youth. So they're necessary for campaigns, because when you need a poster that's going to make an impact, a young person is more likely to create like a BAM, graphic designer, like the videography, or even the stage setup is not just the board and you just put a podium on it. It's virtual. It's a corona, everything went virtual, so you know that young people behind that.
All right. Well, we're talking about increased participation, hopefully by young people, and I would definitely love to see a little bit more education on politics, because a lot of people think that politics is just political parties, when politics is all daily lives. It's decision making and those institutions that govern it. So understanding that politics is not one thing in a box would help a lot of people to realize that their participation is important. And although voting is one of the most empowered parts of participating in politics per se, and the development of your country, you also need to let them know that speaking up and engaging is also participation. Lots of people talk about demonstrations and stuff, but we can do things a little bit more. We're subtle. I think we're subtle in comparison to a lot of other countries or islands across the region, where persons get up and burn tires and so forth in the way they address their issues, right? And block off roads and, that kind of thing. We're very, very subtle people in the way we address our issues, and that's just my knowledge on political participation all around the world. So I would definitely love to see you guys transform the idea of participation and how important it is on the island of Nevis, so that you could be able to mobilize that support and have a lot more young people participate, because it's the time now that we really, really need to put all hands on deck to get to facilitate nation building and so forth. But you guys mentioned issues, so you talk about, there are some issues that you may not be able to talk about, but let's talk about what you're passionate about. So as a person involved in politics, you must have a platform. There must be something in your communities that you would like to see improved, your teachers and so forth. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about that. So what areas of development are you each passionate about, and how do you think you'll be able to use the platform of CCM to be able to promote that?
Okay, so as a teacher, as an educator, I just don't see teacher as somebody sitting behind a desk. Education is very important. So my passion is education and the development of the education system itself. One thing I noticed from being a part of the youth arm actually is that when it comes to job attainment, education plays a major role, and sometimes people feel like jobs are not there, but it's all about how do I get the job and how do I keep it? And most times when you get to talking to somebody, you realize that there's a lot of school dropouts or persons who maybe not fail a subject that they need for a certain area, but they just didn't have the opportunity to get it. So they fall behind and they just leave it. So what the CCM Youth Arm is really campaigning for is to reach out to these people who maybe didn't get the opportunity to do a subject or to develop a skill because maybe dropped out of school or got pregnant or just had a bad experience with a teacher,
Right.
to develop themselves professionally. It doesn't matter which aspect. It could be a cake baker or whatever. What subject do you need? Or what experience? Or who do we have you talk to gain this experience so that you can build yourself? And so I am really passionate about self-development because I feel it's not only the subjects, it's getting to know persons in this field to get better at your craft so that you can push yourself. So youth in small business is a very, I feel like you have to build somebody from the ground up, but I am pushing for young people in business and just not seeing it as he's just a young person who I want him to compete with people who are established. So developing them from the ground up, helping them with subject area, skill development and everything, and then their overall persona. That's I'm gonna push that.
All right. What about you?
Anyone who has me on any of my social media platform would be very aware that one of my areas of passion is equality for women, gender equality, representation in that sense. So that's one of my main areas of passion. So in terms of developing, having access to developing businesses, so we see that, the CCM-led administration has a program where, women and youths have access to loans to develop small businesses. So that's one attractive thing that I wanted to commend the party for and that I found great effort moving in the right direction. I also would love to see more women in leadership and politics. So this is my opinions as an individual now because, I'm passionate about the area. I do believe that we need to move to a point where we have quotas, gender quotas in terms of representatives. And I'm not going to say 30% for women. I'm going to say at least a 30-70 representation. It could be 70% women and 30% men or anything, but both genders need to be represented in terms of politics. So once we have that quota to say that you have to at least have 30% of the other sex, you have at least a fair enough type of representation going on. That's really my area of passion, I'm in education as well, so I contribute there. But I think that we are lagging behind in terms of some areas of gender equality and people don't recognize it. They think, I see a lot of women in office jobs and teachers and, doctors. So we're already there. We've arrived. But if you look at our slate of leaders, you only have a droplet of females in there. We have a lot to bring to the table.
All right.
Well, my passion is similar, but it's more of equality in terms of stature. Because, in our society, there are persons who come from a home where naturally can't support them going to college, or there are families who has it, and all of their children go off to college and stuff. But I want to find a way and a means of getting the support to maybe do more scholarships. Well, I know that the government does a lot of scholarships, but still we need to start to look more of those persons who don't have the funds and the support to go off and further their education. So I think that's where my passion would lie.
All right. Are there any recommendations that you have? Well, you said you want to see more. I have one, but I'd like to hear what you say, because this is something that I've always been talking about as well.
Well, one point is that I know a lot of us come from single-parent homes, and not to bash fathers, But some persons, their father support is not there, so mommy does everything.
Mhm.
We need to look at those persons and see in any avenue or any way that we can help them, because some persons just need the push,
Mhm.
and once they get the push, they excel.
Mhm.
But when you don't have the push, then you just remain the same. Like, I know of families where parents have like 5 children, and out of the 5, 4 could definitely be college grads. But so happen number 5 is the lucky one, because they're the last, and the mom just has to support that one at that time, and they get the opportunity to go off to college and be who they want to be. But then there are persons who are stuck here and being a regular person. Nothing wrong with a regular person, because guess what? Sometimes the regular person makes the biggest difference in the world. So, but at the end of the day, where we are going now is that a degree is a must.
Mhm.
So,
Do you really think that?
well, for jobs these days, if you watch it, like, they always have this qualification. Don't get me wrong, because I could be like the best person for the job with the most experience, because sometimes experience trump the education aspect.
Mhm.
But realistically speaking, you go to look a job, what degree do you have? But it's just to get the bigger opportunities at the end of the day.
All right. Well, one of the things I would like to see is greater cooperation. So, I would, especially as it relates to scholarships in different sectors, we don't really offer. We have scholarships available, but not enough that allows you to diversify your options. So we get a lot of engineers, a lot of doctors, and so
Accountants.
forth, and accountants, but we need to start looking at the other areas, and not just scholarships for degrees, but there are also certification
Certifications.
options. That's one of the things I would like us to start considering, because it's less costly to work to get a certificate, which could carry similar amounts of weight if you know how to use it. So you maximize every single opportunity. You get a certificate in an area that you want to work in, or diploma or something, and it you can obviously elevate yourself in that way. In the same way Catherine was talking about becoming educated and self-development, you don't necessarily need to go to a university, especially in 2020. I mean, you have access to technology. There are so many free courses available online and so forth. So it's just really to direct people to resources, right? Which is something that I see that we're here mentioning, and I hope that you guys could use your platforms to be able to create a resource center for individuals in your space, and in Nevis to be able to access information, because I noticed that is an issue that we have in St. Kitts and Nevis. The young people don't generally even know where to go to get information as it relates to education, scholarships, applications, development. Where do we go to better ourselves as
Well,
individuals? So that's something I would like to see you guys do.
Actually, the NIA has a Facebook scholarship page, NIA Scholarships, where they frequently, I would say once a week, they post certificate programs. We have access to scholarships to go to various countries. The other day, I saw a scholarship opportunity. I think it was for Romania or something. I had a certain degree, and I commented on that. And I think your sister, Kyla, was like, I have a friend that's actually there in that country. And she's like, it would be a great opportunity. So there are opportunities, there's access to. They're trying, because they have the Instagram page. But you see, people are normally scared to go to these places, and they feel like all the opportunities have to be either in the Caribbean or the US or the UK. But I would say opportunities in different places help to develop your outlook at different cultures, and when you're exposed to different cultures and different areas, it opens your mindset. And I also realize that we're here pushing the mandate of getting degrees to work for people or to be qualified for a position. But the youth here, actually, most of the businesses that are here, most of the youth, they don't work for organizations. The organizations belong to them. We have here braiders here that I'm sure make at least 1,500 a month.
More than.
Yeah, more than. We have like Shaki. I'm sure Shakima makes a lot. I'm sure like pastry makers. They have the Bloom. We have different. Listen, I be spending my money on these things. You have nail techs. I just want them, especially. I'm not trying to have youth develop themselves or get degrees to fit into organizations.
Mhm.
I want the young people that are innovative to develop themselves to the point where they can compete not only locally but internationally. We have Jalisa, who's, you see her on YouTube and you're like people commenting from Canada, England, even Pakistan,
Correct.
saying that they want her to come to breathe. So we have youth with the skills, but I just want them to reach to a point where they not necessarily degrees, but they have a certain skills and certificate to go with that, so that when they go, they compete and they are the best. And as St. St. Nevis, as a nation, we produce some of the best in no matter what market. When we go, we naturally stand out. So I just want them to keep standing out and to elevate themselves. So I'm not trying to push the mandate of us. They go to college and get the degree to fit into a structure that's already there. I want them to shine.
You don't have to.
Yeah.
I'm one of those young people who got a degree and couldn't get jobs. So
Yeah.
you talk about, you mentioned it and I thought about it that you have to go to school to excel or become a part of a system.
Yeah.
But I could not get a job as brilliant,
Mhm.
as dedicated, as hardworking, as extraordinary as go the extra mile, could go the extra mile, could have all the extracurricular activities to enforce, to add on to that stellar academic achievements. There is no guarantee that you would ever get what you want.
Yeah.
So you have to create this space, and you mentioned it very early in the discussion, creating a space for yourself so that you could excel, because that's what I had to do to survive, and I continue to do to survive. So that's something that you want to also encourage, the development
Yeah.
of skills and so
Mhm.
forth. So that will cover all national issues. We're 2 minutes to the end of this program.
Mhm.
So I want to give you guys the last 2 minutes to say your last few words. Anything you want to say to listeners, anything you want to say about your party, your participation, be having this platform now, and what you want to do to go forward. You have literally 40 seconds each.
Okay, I just want to thank everyone for tuning in. Let me repeat my name. This is Janet Elizabeth. And I really appreciate having this platform to be able to just encourage more young people to get involved in every aspect of society. Get involved in volunteerism, get involved in voting, get involved in running for elections if that's what you want to do. Join a political party. I mean, I personally believe that the CCM party is the best one, but if you have other ideas, just get involved to whichever direction you decide. You let your conscience guide you and get active and let your voice be heard.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for having us today. This was a very fruitful conversation. And I just want us as youths out there to learn to speak up. Speak up. Your voice makes a difference. Speak up. And of course, I'm happy to tell everybody in Nevis who is planning to vote CCM.
Well, I won't try to sway the hand of the voters, but my last words would be for people, especially youth, to create a space and be in that space and shine, no matter what direction or angle you take, as long as it's positive, to take up a role in society. Don't be afraid of conversations that involve business, politics. It doesn't matter. Your voice is important, and it's important to hear your views and to be a part of organizations that develop. And the role of a competent citizen is to take part in anything that would be great. So it doesn't matter what party affiliation you have, because I have friends in all parties. Be the voice and be heard and take up space.
All right, thank you so much. And this brings us to the end of our program today of Inside News. We're going to thank first Twin FM for always having us and welcoming us with open arms. It was a very fruitful discussion here today. As Gian may have mentioned, for those of you tuned in from the beginning, if you didn't, this is the start of a series of youth in politics, because we will be speaking to other young people from other political parties and getting their ideas and making a contribution and having them help us to elevate the discussions on the way in which we actually talk about politics in this federation. As the caller would have mentioned, we need to reduce the tribalism and get into a place where we could speak to each other about our views, participate, make the choice we want to make. Just like when you decide to shop at TDC or Hosford's, it's your choice, and create an environment that is going to help all of us to grow and make a valuable contribution to nation building. Thank you guys for coming here so much. I hope you tune into the other series, and thank you again, Win FM. I am Jessie Brown, and we're tuning out. Thank you very much.
Thank you.